Imagine this. At midnight New York time, the giant billboard screens in Times Square suddenly displayed the silhouette of a young man with a calm but alluring gaze. One by one, the photographs appear black and white, high contrast, full of an aura of mystery and sensuality, curated with Calvin Klein's signature precision. In a matter of minutes, the name Jungkook instantly dominated trending across platforms. But behind the uproar, something bigger is happening. A wave of reactions from the American fashion world that are not entirely sweet. Behind the scenes, an industry long accustomed to made-in-USA faces is starting to feel shaken by one thing: that one South Korean idol could shake the foundations of America's fashion image with just one photo shoot. Simple but dangerous, sensual but elegant. Some praise, some envy, and some secretly strategize a counterattack. The world of fashion isn't just about fabrics and cameras, it's an arena of power. And in Jungkook's case, he just lit the spark that made many big brands in the US start to fidget. Calvin Klein, once known for its minimal but seductive style, now seems to be alive again. Not because of the new design, but because of the face behind that campaign. Jungkook doesn't just lend his body an expression, he lends the narrative a new globality that has never been touched by any American model, the courage to be authentic in the midst of an idealized image. But why has this sparked so much backlash from big brands in the US? Why do some labels that once dominated world fashion suddenly feel threatened by a single photo shoot? Let's explore. Because behind that flash of a camera lies a story of business competition, ego nationalism of fashion, and an aesthetic revolution that has just begun. As soon as Calvin Klein's campaign with Jungkook was released, the global fashion world suddenly seemed to stop for a moment. On the one hand, the public praised its visual originality, no gimmicks, no superfluous elements. But on the other hand, industry analysts immediately read a deeper signal. This is not just a lingerie promotion. This is the takeover of a symbolic space that for decades was controlled by Western figures. In the history of Calvin Klein, there are a line of big names like Mark Wahlberg, Kate Moss, Justin Bieber, all American icons. But now, the new face is from Seoul, not Los Angeles. And precisely therein lies the tension. Behind the glitter of this campaign, executives at several major US brands began to monitor market data. The result? Sales of Calvin Klein products increased significantly in the Asian and European regions in less than 72 hours after release. Engagement on social media jumped 200%, with the majority of interactions coming from Generation Z and Millennials. But it's not just the numbers that scare competitors. Deeper still, they realized something. Jungkook had changed the global perception of modern male attractiveness. It no longer relies on the stereotype of the American macho, but on a balance between tenderness, sensuality, and natural visual power. It doesn't sell the body, it sells the presence. And that's what makes many brands in the US start to lose direction. A number of sources from the fashion industry even revealed that several major labels had tried to propose to Jungkook before Calvin Klein managed to secure his contract. However, when the campaign finally came out, the reaction among them was not just shock, it was fear of a new era. Because for the first time, the face of Asia isn't just a representation of diversity, it's at the center of the narrative. On the surface, the fashion world looks calm. But behind that, the conversation in the boardrooms of big American brands began to heat up. Jungkook's name appears repeatedly in marketing discussions, consumer analysis, and even to the level of global strategy. One of the leading sportswear brands has reportedly postponed the launch of their new campaign for fear of drowning in the current virality of Jungkook x Calvin Klein. The legendary San Francisco-based denim brand is also reportedly starting to review their visual strategy, adding elements that are more authentic and global-friendly. All this suggests one thing: they are envious. But envy in its professional form. Envy is born from the realization that Jungkook's influence is not an instant result. He is the product of consistency, confidence, and an image built over the years in the global entertainment world. But interestingly, not all envy is negative. Some brands actually see the Jungkook phenomenon as a wake-up call. They are aware that the global market is now more open to the face of Asia than ever before. Jungkook became a symbol of the cultural shift of fashion consumption. From America leads, the world follows, to the world leads, America adapts. This phenomenon shook the ego of the US fashion industry, which for decades monopolized the definition of style and attractiveness. But now, things have changed. Jungkook brings something that can't be easily replicated: sincerity. In each photo, there is a depth of emotion that is rarely encountered in modern fashion campaigns. He does not pose to be an idol, but to convey a sense of calm confidence. And that's what makes many of the big US brands, despite publicly praising the campaign, behind the scenes instead devise ways to rival it. It didn't take long for Jungkook's effect on Calvin Klein to spread. In Seoul, Calvin Klein stores are flooded with visitors. In Tokyo, fans are willing to queue just to get products with the latest campaign photos. In New York, fashion media began writing headlines such as, "Is K-pop the future of American fashion?" and "How Jungkook redefined the male gaze." This phenomenon is not just about captivating visuals, but about a new global narrative that is taking shape, that the center of gravity of pop culture and fashion is no longer in the West. This creates a strong psychological impact for big brands in the US. They saw, for the first time, the strength of Asian culture as not just a trend, but a foundation. Jungkook is proof that cross-cultural collaboration can create massive economic value without losing identity. While other brands are still grappling with issues of representation and inclusiveness, Calvin Klein and Jungkook are already 2 steps ahead. It doesn't just feature Asian models, it puts the face of Asia at the center of the world. This is the moment where fashion and music come together in one undeniable global narrative. The reaction of the major US brands is now entering a new phase. After initially trying to ignore, now they begin to imitate. Some brands have started recruiting Asian influencers, launching global campaigns with a K-style twist, and even adapting sensual minimalist visual concepts similar to Jungkook x Calvin Klein. But what they can't replicate is the aura. Jungkook is not just a model, he is a representation of new values in the industry: authenticity, humility, and emotional connection with the audience. This is what makes many brands still fail despite trying similar formulas. The American fashion world is now faced with a big question. Are they ready to share the stage with Asia? Or will they continue to hold on to the old ego that has begun to crack? One thing is certain: with a single photo shoot, Jungkook has changed the course of the industry forever. From fabric to imagery, from camera to culture, everything is moving under one name: Jungkook. As photos of Jungkook with Calvin Klein continue to circulate online, most of the public may only see the end result: a proportional body, perfect lighting, and a distinctive but elegant sensual feel. However, behind it all, there is a much more complicated game, and not all American brands are ready to admit it. Imagine a glass meeting room on the highest floor of a New York corporate building. There, executives from major labels like Ralph Lauren, Tommy Hilfiger, and Levi's sat staring at screens, paying attention to engagement metrics, sales data, and public sentiment analysis of Jungkook x Calvin Klein campaigns. They are seeing the charts go up exponentially, not just in Asia, but also in the market that has always been their home, the United States. One by one, they realize a bittersweet fact. Jungkook is not just a pop phenomenon, but an economic phenomenon. She is not just a global Korean celebrity, but a catalyst that shifts the balance of power of global fashion. Executives are getting restless, not because they don't have the resources to rival Calvin Klein, but because they're missing out on something much more valuable, an authentic narrative. Jungkook brings something that has been missing from many American fashion campaigns: an honest, emotional connection between products and people. He doesn't look like he's selling clothes, but like he's sharing a meaning. Every expression on her face, every movement of her body, even the way she looked at the camera, seemed to say, "I know who I am, and I'm comfortable with that." In an era where the public is fed up with made-up images, messages like this become gold. And therein lies the defeat of many big American brands. They have for too long sold aspirations without authenticity. Jungkook came, bringing a touching reality. Without saying much, he becomes the mirror of a new generation, a generation that no longer needs to be like everyone else, but wants to be accepted for who he is. Of course, the reaction from the industry is not all positive. Some accused Calvin Klein of capitalizing on K-pop fever. There are also those who consider this step as an opportunistic marketing strategy. However, all that criticism only reinforces one thing: that this campaign was successful. Because, in the fashion world, the big criticism usually comes only when something really shakes up the status quo. And the American status quo, which has always placed their culture at the center of the definition of cool, has just been shaken by a young boy from Busan. Interestingly, some brands have even begun to make covert approaches to Jungkook's agency. They know the chances of catching him may be small, but they want a little Jungkook twist in their next strategy. Some began to recruit Asian photographers. Others replaced the creative director to adjust the Eastern sensibility. But, unfortunately, they forgot one important thing. Jungkook is not a trend, he is the result of evolution. A long journey from the world of music to fashion. From the concert stage to the photo studio, which was colored by credibility and consistency. There's nothing instantaneous there, and that's what makes all the mimicking experiments feel artificial. Meanwhile, Calvin Klein continues to play elegant. They do not talk much in the media, do not respond to gossip, do not provoke controversy. The strategy is simple. Let Jungkook speak through visuals. Every time a new campaign is released, the public reaction comes like a wave, crowded but purposeful. This frustrates many competitors because they do not know how to stem it. Even those brands that used to be symbols of classic America are now beginning to look outdated in the eyes of the younger generation. Those who used to be proud of the slogan, "Made in USA," now have to face the fact that "Made in Seoul" actually sounds more interesting and relevant. Furthermore, this phenomenon shows that Jungkook is not just a brand ambassador, but a cultural disruptor. It forced the global fashion industry to re-reflect on the concepts of beauty, attractiveness, and representation. He erases the line between East and West in a gentle but firm way through universal visual art. And therein lies its greatness. Jungkook wasn't trying to outdo anyone. He was just showing that the world had changed. But that change, for some American brands, feels like a threat. Some fashion analysts even refer to this as the silent fashion war, a silent war between the old image of America and the new image of Asian globalization. But interestingly, this war is no longer determined by who has the most capital, but by who understands humans the most. And Jungkook unknowingly won the battle. He did not conquer the market through advertising, but through taste, through the way he looked at the camera as if looking at millions of people with equality. Now, when we look at Calvin Klein billboards featuring Jungkook in the middle of Manhattan, we are actually witnessing a symbol of changing times. Behind the sobriety of his gaze, there is a cultural revolution underway, a revolution that has forced many American brands to adjust their pace. Some will succeed, some will be left behind. But one thing is certain, the fashion industry will never be the same again after this. Because when one photo of Jungkook can make the world pause to notice, it's no longer about fashion, it's about a new force that can't be ignored. And perhaps, in the quiet boardrooms of America, executives can only say quietly, "That boy, he really changed everything."